Hi, I'm Queena.
My name's Helen Addis.
I'm Hannah.
I'm Caroline.
I'm 40 years old.
51.
I'm 33.
I'm 39 years old.
I'd had a breast augmentation or a boob job the year before, and I was feeling, I thought I'd hurt myself, and I was rubbing the area and I found a lump.
It took a long time for my diagnosis to be found. There was a lump in my breast, but not one that could be felt. So my first sign was actually an inverted nipple.
So it was a year ago, almost to the day, that I found a lump in my right boob. I was having a shower, getting ready for work, and as I jumped out of the shower, I was dried myself off and I was putting moisturiser on, and I found a lump.
I found a lump in my breast in December 2016 whilst having a bath.
Thought, can't be cancer.
And I thought I had worn clothes that were just too tight for me. I thought I'd worn a bra that had done something to my nipple and didn't think too much of it.
Immediately I thought, okay, well, I'll go to the plastic surgery because obviously this has got something to do with my implant.
I don't have any family history of cancer.
Kind of didn't think much of it, left it.
I'm relatively fit and well. I'm young. I was 39 at the time. Can't be cancer, must be hormonal.
Until it didn't go away for a couple of weeks, and my husband said to me, you really should go and get that looked at.
Thought I'd just go to let Christmas go, didn't think it was anything to worry about.
And a few days later I thought, I should probably get it checked out. So I called the GP, went to see the GP, and she agreed with me. Most likely going to be hormonal or a cyst or something like that.
I went down to the plastic surgeon and he had a feel and he said, you know what, that's your own breast tissue, so you'll need to go to your GP and get that checked out.
Like so many of us young women, was kind of put to the back of the queue, not taken very seriously, didn't have an appointment for another 10 days, which was just a routine appointment.
January came along, suddenly realised that lump's still there.
I managed to get into the doctor. She had a feel of my breast and told me that there was nothing to worry about.
Then 2 weeks later I saw the consultant just to have it properly checked.
She told me that because I hadn't been a mother and I was 33 years old, I probably had a blocked milk duct.
And in that time, another 4 lumps grew. So I was convinced it had to be hormonal because cancer doesn't grow that quickly.
When I did go to the GP to have my breast examined, she said to me, I can't feel anything.
Fortunately, I'm quite stubborn, and I said to her that I wasn't willing to leave the room until I had a referral to the breast clinic because I was really scared.
And the consultant did a mammogram and a biopsy and an ultrasound, and 4 days later she said, I'm really sorry, Helen, it's not the news that you wanted to hear today. You've got grade 3 invasive breast cancer.
She just said that they found cancer cells in my breast. My language wasn't very good.
And later on, it transpired that it was a 10-centimetre tumour.
I saw this consultant and I said to her, I'm just coming in for a second opinion, but I don't think there's anything wrong with me. She popped me on her bed. It was so clear, within 10 seconds of her placing her hands on my chest and having a feel, she asked me if I'd come alone to that appointment, to which I said yes. I didn't think I had anything to worry about, and she said, well, next time please bring someone with you.
My words were, does that mean I've got breast cancer? And it was breast cancer, and I was petrified.
And I thought, well, the minute she says there's a next time, this isn't good news. And we went into a further conversation and she said, there's definitely a lump in your breast. It's hidden behind the nipple.
Bit of a blur, you don't know what's going on, you're fearful. I ended up sitting down thinking, I'm 26 and I don't know what this means for my lifespan. I don't know, does this mean I'm going to die early? Am I going to die having not achieved anything? At that point I hadn't even been in love or anything. I'm like, oh my God, I've not been in love.
There wasn't any time to digest what was going on. It was I walked out of the hospital, I went back to my desk in this sort of state of what's happening to me.
My initial reaction was, I'm going to die. And I was planning my funeral, I was planning the songs.
It went very, very quickly. So from diagnosis, it was a week later that I was having a mastectomy. It was a few weeks after that then that my chemo started. So I was on this sort of cancer treatment train that was accelerating kind of out of control in a way.
But then within 2 months, I'd noticed this lump that had always been there and it had been checked out before. Well, this little lump on top of my reconstruction started to grow, and it grew to the point that I was like, right, I need to go back to the doctor. And then I had an examination, was forwarded on for an ultrasound, had a biopsy, and lo and behold, it was bloody breast cancer again. Grade 3 breast cancer with the same profile as my initial cancer, so it had never truly gone.
It transpired that the tumour was actually 6 centimetres in length. There were 2 of them. A second was 2.5 centimetres in length, so there was 8.5 centimetres worth of tumours in my left breast.
I think to me, it's the closest thing. Well, it's almost like somebody telling you you're going to die. And I thought, well, I'm 49, I don't want to die yet.
Holy shit, like I've had it before, it's come back. This means it's going to be stage 4 breast cancer and incurable.
As soon as I saw the consultant, he said, you know, we're going to have to remove the left breast. There's no chance of saving it.
My first thing was, how am I going to tell my sister? How am I going to tell everybody else? And what do I do now? It was so scary.
Those 2 weeks of having scans were the worst of my life. I genuinely believed that it was going to show up in my bones, liver, brain, somewhere. It wasn't just going to be contained, but by some miracle it was contained to just the breast.
To begin with, when I found out, my husband and I were floored, absolutely floored, and we've got 3 small children, and it was, wow, like, has the cancer spread? Is it going to kill me? How do we tell the children? When do we tell the children? Who do we tell first? How do you tell your parents even that? How do I tell my mum and my dad that I've got cancer?
That was, for me, that was what the hardest thing. I almost wanted came very close to didn't want to tell anybody, because you kind of want to protect them, so you don't want to kind of tell them really how you're feeling.
I didn't want to tell people over and over again what was going on, so I thought, let me just get them in one place and tell them all together. So again, I arranged this meal and I said to them, right, you've all got to be there. I'll turn up at 7 o'clock, you know, I've got to tell you something. And bless their hearts, I'm pretty sure they thought I was going to tell them I was pregnant.
My mum was amazing. Literally, she's a poorly lady herself at the time, and she's no longer with us. She passed away a couple of months ago. But she was just amazing. She'd ferry me around here and there, countless appointments. But, you know, my mum was just amazing.
And I walked in and I said, look, I've got breast cancer. And again, no one knows what to say, no one knows what to do, because that's the last thing that's on their mind when you're 33 and you've lived a young, healthy, vibrant life. That's not what people expect to hear.
So I had a 5, 7 and a 9-year-old. So my youngest, I just thought, I'm just going to talk her through it, baby steps at a time. So when I went into hospital, I said, you know, I've got to go in because I've got a poorly boobie. They're going to take it away, and then I'm going to have some treatment. And she was fine. She was just more obsessed with looking at my scar.
And my sister, she's 10 years younger than me. I'm a bit of a mum figure to her, and I just wanted to, I'm feeling about, sorry, Mark, there's a bit, sorry. No, it's fine. But it was really, really hard.
So my 9-year-old, I explained to him that it was like a verruca, and I said that I've got a verruca in my boobie, and if I don't put the treatment on like we did with the one that was on his toe, it was just going to get bigger and bigger. And I said, so the doctor needs to take it out, and then I'll have medicine to make sure it doesn't come back. And he said to me, is it cancer? And I had no idea that a 9-year-old knows what cancer is. And so I said to him, what do you know about cancer? And he said that it kills you. And
I literally just got engaged a couple of weeks earlier, and then I had this diagnosis. And I think for him, he'll say, like, he'd say, oh no, it was fine, but I've never seen him cry, and he cried.
We had a meal and then we sat my mum down and said, look, Karina's got something to tell you. And I just said, Mum, I've got breast cancer. And, you know, she cried like all mothers would, hearing that news. You know, I'm now a mother myself, and God, the thought of my daughter going through something like this, it horrifies me. So there were tears, there was frustration, there was anger, you know, the why me, why you situation that everyone sort of asks initially upon diagnosis.
Yeah, he was angry because he couldn't fix it, and he couldn't protect me from cancer. All he could do was sit aside and watch me. And the reason I get upset about that is because I feel so guilty about how I must have made people around me feel. But yeah, I think that's why it's so important for me to be quite, you know, positive.
No, keep this in the film, because this is what it is. It was so scary. I was so scared. And Her reaction was great. Her reaction in front of me was great. But I didn't want her to worry about me, and that's what upset me more, is that people were worrying about me. I didn't like it. Felt really out of control.
My first instinct was to say, well, this isn't going to kill me. Of course it's not going to kill me. That was my natural reaction to try and protect him. But what I've learnt since is that I just have to be open with my children.
Your loved ones, especially your partner, they're the ones you take it out on. They're the ones who are there with you, 24/7. They, God bless them, have the hardest journey. I still believe that actually it's almost harder for them than it is for the patient, because they're having to deal with everything the patient's dealing with without understanding it.
The second time, I always say it hit me that little bit harder, because I knew what was to come, and I was like, oh man, I just don't think I can do this.
When I talk about it, it's like I'm talking about somebody else. It's like I'm having an out-of-body experience. It's like, did I really have cancer? The physical side of it, for me, is a reminder that I've had it. And I always remember my oncologist I said to my oncologist, I just want to be normal again. And he said, there's a new normal. And I said, no. I don't want a new normal. I like my old normal. And it is a new normal.
It transpired that I had about 60% of my lymph nodes tumoured once they'd taken them out, which meant chemotherapy had to be included in my treatment regime. I walked into the car park with my husband that day, and that was the first time I allowed myself to cry, because I'd heard the words chemotherapy, and having chemotherapy means that your disease becomes public. It means that everyone knows what's going on in your life. It means that you lose control. And it means that this is going to be a much longer journey than you thought it was going to be.
But then you think, I've got to do it. I mean, what's the alternative? Just like rolling over and not, doing my best by myself, the best by myself and my family, by taking on, having this treatment and, potentially extending my life.
And it all just came flooding to me in that moment. And perhaps all the tears I'd bottled up to that point just flowed, and I just fell onto the floor in the car park, and I sobbed my heart out and said to my husband, I don't want this to happen to me. Why is it happening to me?
I knew exactly what cancer was, but cancer was an illness that usually affected older people and people that aren't me. Not people that aren't me, like that. I mean, it just wouldn't affect me. Cancer existed and it would affect loads of people, but it wouldn't affect me.
I would say the lows would obviously be finding out about it in the first place.
If I'm honest, I felt really weak and really vulnerable, and I felt like I'd let people down, and I'd let myself down, and that I was a bit of a failure.
And those moments of telling the closest people to me, I get goosebumps just remembering that. I think that will haunt me forever, just the look, seeing the look on somebody else's face can sometimes be almost like it really makes it hit home what you're telling them.
I spent so many years prior to this building up myself as this strong person who just, any time adversity came my way, I just fought it off, and, I studied and I worked and I achieved, and I was always an achiever, and it felt like this thing that I was in, no control of just took everything I had away from me.
Now cancer is literally just one of those words that infuriates me. It honestly ruins lives, it takes lives. It's taken the lives of some of my friends already. Woo! But yeah, it's just a shitter, and it just needs to be stopped.
A lot of women that I've spoken to, they don't want to touch their boobs. They're embarrassed of it, they don't want to go to the doctor about it, whereas Copper Phil is like, boobs! Everybody talk boobs!
It doesn't matter who you are, it doesn't discriminate, and that's, for me, it doesn't matter what age you are. I suppose what I've realised, what kind of person you are, it just doesn't discriminate. And I want to do this for Copper Phil, because Copper Phil, for me, if I hadn't felt my lump, and Copper Phil were the people I always remember, that's why I felt the lump in the breast.
Honestly, when I think back, I was so dismissive about the importance of checking my breast because of this belief that not having a significant family history, me as a young woman, I couldn't be affected by breast cancer, when actually that isn't the case. Like, breast cancer does not care about your age, it doesn't care about your ethnicity, size, gender for that matter actually. I mean, breast cancer is indiscriminate.
This trek is so significant to me for so many reasons. Number one, I will have the last of my hospital breast cancer treatment in October. So this is going to be my massive 2 fingers up to I've done it, I've smashed it, and now I'm going to trek the Himalayas with a fantastic charity like Copperfield.
The trek means so much to me, you know. It means, firstly, it's my body has gone through so much, but I'm gonna test it a little bit further, and I know it won't let me down because it's been through much harder times, and you know, I will honour it by making sure I train it, making sure I get it into shape and head up that mountain as physically fit as I can possibly be.
I lost my mum in October, just gone, so I'm doing this for her because I know that she will be so proud of me for doing this.
I've lost friends, so you know, when you have breast cancer, you do have a lot more friends who have breast cancer, because you gravitate towards each other because you're the only little clique who get what each other's going through. And I've lost, you know, 4 friends. Apart from me doing it for the girls that I've lost, and apart from me doing it for my daughter.
Somebody said to me, "Oh, yeah, but life's really short," and I think if I had have died, I'd have been around for 50 years. That's quite a long time. What I think is life is fragile. You never know what's around the corner. So don't put off tomorrow what you can do today.
Oh, don't ever think of my mum up on those mountains, I'm telling you. At the end, I will raise a glass to her because I know that oh my God. Oh God, I love her so much, I just miss her. And I know she would be so proud, even though, like, I get weird thinking I'm proud, but yeah, like, she would be so proud, and I know she'll be like, yeah, go get it.